what do you mean by trim the fat?
I want you to fire the fat people. They're lazy and they're slow and they make me sad to look at. You can start with large Marge. Marge, can you come in here, please?
What?
You would have to admit our lives would be easier if our bosses weren't alive.
You can fire Professor Xavier.
So it's not just what bosses say. It's not even necessarily what bosses do. It's the way they stand, the way they face you, the way they act towards you. Body language of horrible bosses. Carol Goldman's been thinking about that a lot. She's one of the smartest people I know. She is a business expert, but she really specializes in body language, and she's got some great insights into the kinds of things that horrible bosses do. And just for starters, how about this?
Yeah, that's not real good.
Yeah, when the boss is kind of ignoring you.
A lot of horrible bosses do that. You can be speaking, and they're checking their watch, they're checking their email, they're working on their computer, they're shuffling papers, they're checking out the room, they're looking anywhere but at you.
Worst, you researched this by talking to a lot of people. Worst example of bad body language from a boss?
Well, was when in a meeting when the boss would get bored, he would stand up and simulate golf swings.
Okay, what do you do about that?
Well, I guess you could be his pretend caddy. but literally, when people aren't paying attention to you, this one woman I was working with, her boss never looked at her when she spoke. So I said, stand up when you speak and move. Yeah. Because men particularly are attracted to movement. And once you stand, you elevate yourself in stature and in status, and she got his attention.
What about the boss that just gets into your space?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of that. They infringe on your territory. You know, we all have that 2-foot bubble, at least in the United States. And unless you're invited in, we really don't like it. But horrible bosses are either clueless or they on purpose will get too close to you to intimidate, to show you that they can, to make you feel, to belittle you.
So the answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, is just punch them in the... No, what are you supposed to do about that?
Well, you could try to kill them like they do in the movie, although I don't advise it. But what I had one woman do, whose boss always leaned over her when she was doing work, I would have her take that paperwork that she was working on, swivel her body, and make a barricade with it and hand it to him saying, oh, was there something you wanted to see?
Ooh. What about the use of touch? And I can personally relate to, once had a boss who would always just do this, you know, and it was, hated it.
Yeah, touch can be wonderful. It can be complimentary, it can be sympathy, it can also be power. And I think the worst case of that was, and I've heard this from more than one person, believe it or not, bosses who pat you on the head. Can you believe that? Literally happens.
What do you do about that?
Well, I don't know what women can do so much. But this one man I was working with, I said, try putting a lot of hair gel on. And he did, and the boss went, ooh, and that was the last of it.
Mixed messages.
Well, that's where you say one thing and do another. You say, my door is always open, please come into the office. And then the minute someone comes in without an appointment, you give them that stony stare, you frown, you have a really bad expression on your face.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do about that.
Well, there isn't, but this whole staff of people would notice that this one boss did it, and they would say, oh, it looks like this is a bad time for you. Should we reschedule?
So how often is this really that the bosses are horrible and just clueless?
I think it's probably 50-50. I know there are a lot of bosses who intimidate on purpose.
Yeah.
You know, they really do. And then a lot of just don't know. They don't realize the impact their body language is having.
Carol Kinsey Goldman, her book is called The Silent Language of Leaders, How Body Language Can Help or Hurt How You Lead. And this woman's got some fabulous insights. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.